G'day expats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Expat Chat, episode 160 for today. As always, I'm joined with my mate, co-host, business mentor, business partner, the beast from the sandpit. Nah, that doesn't quite work.
Doesn't sound like a beast
Manager,
from Beirut or something.
I was going to say the beast from the east, but
Far East,
the founder,
Middle
the
East.
founder for the Atlas Wealth Group, Brett Evans, who is currently over in the sandpit over in the Middle East, looking after Europe, Middle East, and Africa's. Good morning, Brett. How are you?
Mate, all well, thanks. All well. Getting ready for the sprint to Christmas. My youngest daughter loves to remind me of how far away it is. I think she's very much goal fixated at the moment in terms of trying to maximize her chances when
Oh yeah.
old
Oh yeah.
Saint Nick comes down the chimney. Though doesn't not many chimneys in Dubai, so I tell her that. But anyway, all good. And to the folks out there who are new to the podcast, g'day. And I'm joined by my mate and colleague and managing director for the APAC region, Mr. James Ridley, who's you know well and truly into fatherhood now. I think he's match fit and they got their rhythm and schedule and, it's all that sort of fun stuff. But
Yeah.
especially at this
Go
age
on.
with little Harvey, mate, he must be changing on a daily basis. And, that's the cool bit about that age. It's just like every day it's just this chance of discovery.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He has learned how to roll over, so we
Yep.
can't swaddle him anymore because of SIDS. So
Yep.
now we're like, oh shit, how's he gonna sleep? So mum and dad are having some interesting nights at the moment, but that's okay. You're right though. He's grown too quickly. He's now in number three nappies, not number two. So
Yep.
and I think just 2 days ago, Camille was saying, what do we get Harvey for Christmas? And I'm like, my response is, what does he need? Clothes? Like, well, how old is he?
Yeah.
So,
Motorbike. Motorbike. Get him a
yes,
motorbike.
exactly. Exactly. Now, mate,
Kiwi 50.
bringing our
Yep.
focus to today's session, Q&A. So for the
Jingle
listeners,
time.
those tuning in, um, just a quick shout out to our Facebook group, the Australian Expat Financial Forum. So these are where the questions come from. A lot of Aussies living overseas, dump them in there. We see a lot of commentary for all the members, which is great to see. We also like every, I would say, couple of weeks to jump in there and obviously run through them so we can give the answers from professionals and bust a couple of myths. But before we jump into it, get the jingle out of the way for the disclaimer.
Ticking the boxes, all the information. We're going to have a chat with you, good folks, today. Should be treated as informational and educational purposes only. Please do not construe this as financial advice. If you do need financial advice, reach out to a specialist who's licensed and experienced, like Atlas.
Beautiful. Now let's jump into it. Question one. If you are a non-resident for tax purposes and you need to go back to Australia for a sick parent near the end of life, that's very unfortunate. How long after 45 days can you stay before you'll be considered a tax resident? And also, what paperwork do you need to prove reason there? So there's this 45 days. So we know where that's come from.
Yeah, essentially the proposed, and I say proposed because it's been on the card since 2017, 2018, still proposed, not enacted.
Yes.
So
Yep.
ignore the 45, focus on the 1936 tax residency rules, resides,
Yep.
domicile, 183 day, and Commonwealth Super. Obviously, day counts are important to manage because you don't want to breach the
They are.
183, but you also
Yep.
need to be mindful of the resides and the domicile test as well too. So if you
Yep.
are going back, and sorry to hear about your parents, if you are
Mm.
going back, you need to just be mindful that you don't get too settled.
Yep.
So we're talking things like driver's license, gym memberships, all that sort of
Leases.
stuff, that leases, utility bills, you don't want to get too settled. So try and stay as temporary as possible.
Mm.
Obviously, at the end of the day, there is no time frame with respect to your parents, sorry. So it's hard is the honest
Mm.
answer. And I think just talk to your accountant, get that guidance from them because, there are situations when you can go over certain limits in extenuating circumstances, but you want to
Yep.
make sure you're tickety-boo when it comes to having everything locked in.
That's exactly right. Yep, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing further I can really add to that. So that's great. Tie that one off. Number two here. I'm a dual Australian US citizen planning to retire next year. I have a super fund that I had before I left Australia. I'm currently in the US and will be eligible for Social Security. Do I need to become an Australian resident again to draw a pension from my super fund? So great question. I'm going to tie this one off. So the great thing about super is it is agnostic regardless of your tax residency in Australia. So you can be living overseas as a non-resident and still access it via the preservation rules and then, the retirement rules and drawing an income stream from it as an account-based pension or a lump sum withdrawal. Same if you're in Australia, if you're an ordinary Australian tax resident. So that's the good thing. You need to give some consideration as to how it's going to be taxed in the country in which you reside in, and that can obviously dictate how you manage it and draw down from it. But yes, you definitely can draw a pension from it regardless of not being an Australian resident.
Yep, a lot of our clients do. So no dramas
That's
there.
a good one. Yep, moving on. Question 3 here. As an expat, I'm considering buying a property back in Australia. Initially, it will be to have an investment with a view to possibly move into it for retirement. What are the tax implications of this, and how can I secure a mortgage on a property?
Easy one. Tax implications are you're treated like a foreign investor, Chinese, British, Russian, doesn't matter. So no 50% capital gains discount, depending on your situation, whether it's joint buying as with someone or singly. If that person is a foreign citizen, not an Australian citizen,
Correct.
you might have FIRB considerations, you might have stamp duty considerations. So that's the bit there. And then ongoing, you'll have to file tax returns to declare the income, obviously claim the expenses. You still get access to things like depreciation allowances and all those sort of things. A lot of people don't realise that. One thing I will say at the high level, though, I've never seen a situation where an investment property is a forever property is a good investment property. There's always a trade-off. So be mindful of that. You're not going to get because there's very much an emotional attachment to it. You're not buying because it's the best investment, best yield, best returns. You love the house, you love the area. So just be careful and don't try and kid yourself that it is an investment. Yes, you put someone in to pay the bills and upkeep, but if it's going to be a forever home, then, treat it like that. So obviously from a principal place of residence point of view, zero capital gains tax accrual once you move into it from that period onwards. But up until that period of time, you will be treated like an investment property and accruing a capital gains tax liability accordingly.
Yep, absolutely. Can't add anything to that. So that's good. The last part was, how can I secure a mortgage on the property? Well, engage and speak with Atlas Mortgages. The team do some great work for our clients, regardless of where you live in the world. They obviously abide by a lot of the different credit policies, but there's some wiggle room there for expats. So reach out and we can put you in touch with them. Good people. Number 4. Are there options to lock in foreign exchange rate? What are the pros and cons? So OFX, one of the, I suppose, main providers in the Australian market, currency providers that is, they do forward contracts where you can lock in an exchange rate. It costs you more because you're locking in that exchange rate. You're almost paying like an insurance premium on that forward contract, and then you do have a commitment to use it as well. The pros there are, if the exchange rate is really strong, converting the US dollar to the Australian dollar, and you are of the view that the US dollar is going to weaken against the Australian dollar, then using a forward contract can make a lot of sense, especially if you're sending back a significant amount of capital. We're not talking $5, $10, $15,000. We're talking $500,000, $1 million. That is when I think it makes a lot of sense to use forward contracts or foreign exchange contracts. Absolutely. I think when you're using it for just small amounts, drips and drabs on a monthly basis, I'm not sure it has a role. You're better off just dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost averaging is a far more effective way of taking care of that. So for small monthly ongoing contributions, don't try and lock it in. But as you say, perfectly. If it's a big lump sum, you can, and it's just that opportunity cost. You're happy to forego an improvement in the value to pay a premium to lock that rate in. So it can be done.
Absolutely. Moving on, number 5. I've been living abroad for 10 years in the UK How do I go about getting medical insurance, so private health insurance, when I move back to Australia? Do I need to do a probationary period, or can I just join when I'm in the UK first to enable me to get full coverage and move over from the NHS system? So the NHS system over in the UK is much like the Medicare system, I would say, the public health system. It's not great in terms of it been running at a loss for a number of years,
It's probably about 40
but
years ago.
yeah, it's right. So some good questions in this one. So private health is purely up to the individual. We've got a lot of different private health providers, private health insurance providers in Australia. So you do need to shop around. There's some great online comparator sort of websites to sort of get your desired policy, your hospitals cover, your extras cover, a bit of both, and paying the monthly premium. And then there's even the tax rebate that you have to consider as well based on your income level. Um, there isn't really a probationary period. Ideally, if you're over the ages of 30, you do want to have some before or just as you arrive. When you arrive back in Australia, you've essentially got 12 months to get that policy before they add any lifetime health cover loading. When you apply for new insurance and you're over the age of 30 back in Australia, sometimes the default setting is that they will apply the lifetime health cover loading if you haven't had it for a period when you've been over the age of 30. So what you do need to provide, and much like something that we actually provide to our clients and help them, is a passenger movement record. So that's downloading your passport history from the Department of Home Affairs, I believe, Brett. Does that sound
Yep,
right?
that sounds right.
And
Yeah.
you're giving that with your private health insurance application so they don't apply the lifetime health cover loading. The lifetime health cover loading is actually just increasing your costs, your premiums. They'll load on an extra 50% on your premiums or 100%. Once those loadings are on there, you actually can't remove them for up to 10 years. So they are significant, and you usually get an extra 2 to 4% added for every year that you haven't had it. So it can be quite a large whack to your annual premiums. So that's how we'd go about tackling that. So good question there. Number 6, I'm a dual US Australian citizen who plans to retire in Australia. When investigating whether my super will be taxed in the US once it becomes an account-based pension, I keep finding the answer the US could tax it. And it depends on your accountant's interpretation of the treaty. What's Atlas's interpretation given the US lack of clear exemption? It's a good question. I'm happy to take this one, Brett.
Okay.
So in the US, a superannuation fund is treated as one of two trusts, an employee's benefits trust or a foreign grantor trust. Regardless of your situation, the IRS will treat that as taxable when you start drawing an income stream from it. That is our interpretation. There are some gung-ho US accounts which try to treat it as private Social Security in the US, which means it's not taxable.
Oh,
That
they're
is
in jail now.
incorrect. They are in jail. We won't name them.
Yeah.
They're in jail for pretty much about 50 years, to be honest, based on all the other stuff that they did in the background. So it is taxable when you are drawing an income stream from it, depending on the type of trust treatment. Grantor trust, as an example, you would actually be building basis within the account because you're paying tax as you go on the growth of it, which means it's not tax-free when you draw an income stream from the eyes of the US, but some of it might be tax exempt, much like our super funds, which you've got a tax-free component and a taxable component. That being said, either way, the income stream that you draw from it will and should be taxable and will be recorded in your US tax returns. No question about it. That is absolute. Number 7, I'm also a dual US Australian citizen, getting a few of those at the moment, aren't we? Planning to retire next year. I have a super account in Australia and a stock portfolio that I owned before moving to the US. My Australian financial advisor says legislation has changed in Australia and they can no longer be my advisor and manage my superannuation or stock portfolio as I'm in the US. What are my options for these funds? I was planning to take a pension from super account to fund my retirement. Can I still do this? I was also eligible for Social Security in the US. It's an
Look,
interesting one.
let's squash that myth about there's been a change in legislation. There hasn't. It's been a change in
No.
internal policy at that advisor's office.
Yep.
So their licensees clearly said none of our advisors are allowed to work with expats because we don't have professional indemnity insurance, experience, licensing, and so forth. There's been that change in legislation. That's how Atlas was built.
Yep.
So guess what? We're here. We're doing it. We do our audits every year with regulators around the world, and they're happy. So let's
Yep.
squash that one. In answer to the person's question, they just need to work with a specialist, so who can
Yep.
do it. I'll hand the rest of part of the question over to you because that's your bread and butter
Yep.
on the US side, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think depending on, because you've had an advisor looking after you, I believe you'll probably be on a similar platform to, or a platform like the ones that we use for our clients. So you've got usually probably a rather upgraded investment strategy compared to your traditional ones. So might hold direct shares, other ones. That does become very difficult to manage. You're on yourself. So I'd recommend you reach out to someone like us or us, and we can help unpack it and design your retirement strategy. There's not really an issue with you living over in the US and funding the retirement out of that. Again, I'd say there's a significant portion of our clients are doing the exact
Do it.
same thing, or
Yeah.
in other countries. Yep. Um, so you can still do it. You can still fund your retirement via your super accounts, absolutely. And Social Security, that's great. It's a great income supplement. The great thing about Social Security, if you're actually in Australia, is it's not taxable in Australia. That's the one great thing that came out of our DTA, which is great. So still eligible for that. Your super won't have an impact on your benefit and entitlements to Social Security. Every now and then there's some things going around in the expat traps about Weeper. I won't go into today, but some people think it reduces the amount you take from your Social Security, but that's not the case. But great question. And that's probably our last question for today.
Mate, I think we'll wrap it up there. Sometimes people get a bit of brain overload. So just a bit of housekeeping, guys. Joe, our marketing communications manager, absolutely just runs her fingers to the bone and really trying to get the information out there. I got in trouble the other day because I don't ask people to subscribe. So she wants me to get on my hands and knees and say, guys, please like and subscribe. I know usually 12-year-olds on YouTube say that, but she's put a gun to my head, says I'm not doing my job right. So please make me look good in front of Joe. She's a lovely lady, but I'm sure she's got a mean side if I bring it out of her. So please, please, please like and subscribe because I want to be here next week doing more episodes. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
James, appreciate your time as always, mate. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you on the next episode.
See you guys.